Earlier, I spoke with Dr. Ned Murray, Associate Director of the Jorge M. Perez Metropolitan Center for Economic and Housing Research at FIU. We discussed how we got here and the steps needed to alleviate South Florida's worsening housing crisis. So we know that the data shows right now we're in a critical housing emergency in South Florida. So how did we get here?
Well, we could go back 50 years, but in a nutshell, in terms of the most recent housing situation, you'd have to really go back to the tech bubble of 2000, late 1990s, leading up to the burst of the bubble in 2000. That was a stock market bubble. Once investors got out of the stock market, in terms of the dot-com investor, they moved into real estate. And we began to see that during the real estate bubble of the first decade, from 2005 up to 2008, when we had the burst, and then, of course, the economic recession. Now, that was a housing and financial bubble. But that's when we first began seeing large-scale investment and buying in residential markets. Now, fast forward, we came out of the trough of the economic recession in 2012, and prices have been going up gradually. But what we've seen over the last 2 years has been a resurgence at a level that we had not seen before, really unprecedented in terms of investing and buying residential real estate to where appreciation levels have essentially gone into the double digits over the last 2 years.
So investment and then also high demand, right?
We've always had excessive demand down here in South Florida, mainly because we are a service sector economy, hospitality and tourism, healthcare. These are industries in general that pay lower wages. So the demand has always been there. And as housing costs have risen, particularly over the last 2 years, we're starting to see incredible levels of distress because more and more people obviously are paying much more each month on rent than they can afford. So right now we have roughly 500,000 renters right now in South Florida who are in distress. They cannot pay enough or they don't earn enough to pay the rents that are due the first of the month.
You know, we're talking about affordable housing. That's what this program is all about. So let's talk about that term exactly, what that means. And a lot of people hear the term affordable housing and they say, not in my backyard. And maybe it's because they don't really know what that means, or they think it means it's going to lower their property values. Talk a little bit about what affordable housing actually means and how it really can be both an economic boon and bring a lot of health benefits to a community when we have adequate affordable housing for everyone.
Well, I think we should start with an understanding of what housing affordability is. Instead of talking about affordable housing, let's talking about housing affordability and how critical that is in terms of providing the essential health, safety, and welfare of our residents. And that's really the most critical perspective that needs to be put in place from a policy perspective, is an understanding how essential safe, decent, and affordable housing is to our population, to our residents, and especially to our workers. So without that, we have a labor shortage as it is. And what's driving a lot of that labor shortage right now is the fact that we have many renters who cannot afford to be in the market. So what they've done is they've migrated to other parts of the state. Now, unfortunately, unlike during the bubble of the first decade, the whole state right now is essentially under siege in terms of housing prices. So there's very few places to escape to. But it's creating a really difficult situation because we just don't have the supply to even come close to the demand that we've had now for some time. But this demand has far outweighed or far exceeded the supply, and that's driving a lot of these issues, and that's also driving up a lot of the costs that we're seeing.
Your FIU affordable housing reports give suggestions to municipalities, including public-private partnerships and incentives. So talk about some of the recommendations that you all make and how they're being applied. Is there anything that can be done in the short term to help out?
What really has to happen is we have to come to the table and begin developing policies and strategies that address the supply issues which is so critical right now, and looking for land wherever that may be, public land or even private land that can be acquired to begin building, even if it is incrementally. We're not going to see larger scale development, but there is a lot of opportunity out there in terms of smaller scale development. And on the demand end, we need to begin thinking of revitalizing neighborhoods east of 95 that offer opportunities. These are the older established neighborhoods. These neighborhoods are also in areas where there is high employment. Mm-hmm. The employment centers essentially run the I-95 corridor. So it would be really, really important to begin thinking about these neighborhoods, begin revitalizing them, fixing up the properties if they require it. Many cities have purchase rehab programs providing grants and loans to potential first-time buyers. And obviously these properties could also be suitable for renters as well. But we do have a significant supply of housing, but it's not safe and decent. So if we could begin to address that issue in many of the neighborhoods that essentially have been neglected over the decades, we can then more quickly address the need.
And finally, Dr. Renters and hopeful homeowners, they're frustrated, people are afraid, they're discouraged. What is some advice that you can leave them with today?
Well, I'd say for buyers is to pause right now, wait for this market to settle a bit. I think some of that will play out over the next year as investors who get in thinking that they were going to get their 30% will not get their 30%. So I think we're going to see prices come down a bit, not to the level of affordability for most, but I think there will be some of that. As far as renters go, if you're a good renter, you need to work out arrangements with your landlord. I know it's very, very difficult. If it means your family's well-being and not being evicted, it may be time to look at other parts of the state that provide rents and jobs. We know that the job market in other parts of Florida is very competitive in terms of wages. So I hate to see our workers leave, but on the other hand, we have to look out for our people as well. So that's something if push comes to shove, and you can't work out something with your landlord, and you can't find anything, you may need to do that, because obviously your family comes first.
Dr. Murray, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.